Well, I'm so excited to be here. I'm with Chelsea Pearl, and she's here, a San Francisco native. We're shooting right at the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm actually from Northern California myself. It's just such an amazing place to be. And today we're talking a little bit about travel hacks and the passion that we share both for travel. So why don't you tell a little bit about what you do and a little bit about your experiences in travel?
Hi everybody, my name is Chelsea. I am a Bay Area native. I live in San Francisco and I am a fashion, beauty, and travel blogger. I show my followers and viewers how to live large in accessible ways. So whether that's expressing themselves through fashion, makeup, or exploring new places on the world, whether they're solo travelers or with their friends or family. I show my followers and inspire them to get the most out of life.
That's something that I share. I love to travel, and it's funny because for me personally, traveling was kind of like secondhand because I'm always working, at least I was. And let's get into some hacks, right? Like, how can we really talk about, like, what are some things that, like, you have to know when you're traveling just to make life a little bit easier? For me personally, I don't know if you agree, but for me, I like to have a plan. The first thing I would say before you do anything is you gotta have a plan. You gotta know like where you're gonna go, because the insanity of like showing up somewhere and not having like a schedule, you don't have to have like hey, in 15 minutes we're gonna do this, in 30 minutes we're gonna do that, but you have to have at least an approximation. In the morning we're gonna do this, in the afternoon we're gonna do this, in the evenings we're gonna do this. Oh, P.S. we're gonna stay here.
Right.
Because trying to find that last minute hotel can be stressful, especially in a city like San Francisco where, well, there's a lot of people here trying to find a hotel last minute.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, like, it can be very bewildering to plan a trip, especially if you don't travel a lot, but we have technology at our side, and I think San Francisco is such a great setting for that because there are so many apps and ways to help plan your trip, streamline your trip, and technology like devices to bring on your trip to kind of maximize your travel experience.
I mean, we're here in Silicon Valley, so most of the apps are developed here, so if you're coming to San Francisco, there's probably an app for that.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things that I'd also like to talk about too is, what are some things that we have to like take with us when you travel? Now, that kind of depends. If like you're still trying to run your business while you travel, making sure you have a laptop that actually works, and then you have a backup plan. Because like for me, this is a crazy thing, but I actually bring 2 laptops with me. I bring a tablet type computer and then a laptop, yeah. Because, I've actually been somewhere overseas for 30 days. I was in the Philippines and my laptop died. And it was a nightmare. I had to go to the store, I actually had to buy a new laptop because I had to keep working, right?
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. So now, like, not everybody has to do this, but if you have even a tablet that you copy the same files so that, like, if that dies, you can still work, right? Yeah. Like, that's super important. How do you manage your business off your phone, or?
Yeah. So being a full-time content creator, I kind of always need to be tapped into the internet or at least connected. And then I have one rule I live by. It's called ABC. Always be charging. So I'm a big fan of having external battery packs, redundancy in my files, whether that's an external hard drive or sharing files to the cloud. I also love having extra SD cards and things with me on the go in case you lose a camera, break a camera. And then last but not least, a MiFi device, especially if you're traveling abroad. There's no reason to go over your data or your minutes on your mobile plan. Just get a MiFi, and that's unlimited data wherever you go internationally.
Oh, I'm gonna take it to the next level because I don't even know if you knew this, but Google now has their own carrier called Project Fi. And I've been using it for now like maybe 7 or 8 months. And basically, you can go anywhere, 120 countries in the world.
Wow.
You pay a flat fee. You pay $1, I think it's like $10 a gig over whatever your plan is. And I think they start at like 40, 50 bucks. And you can go in 120 countries, international roaming, and you can call anybody like you're home.
Amazing.
And if you're on Wi-Fi, it's free calling pretty much everywhere. So people can call you straight to your phone, just like you're right here in California.
Yeah, it was great. And you can also update your mom and dad where you're at, wherever you are in the world, because they're always worried about you.
And you know what? Like, what are some cool apps that you know about that you use? Like, what are must-have apps when you travel?
Yeah, so for me, it totally depends on where I'm going. But most recently, I was in Asia, and I'm a big fan of Yelp. Yelp is an app based in the States for reviews on businesses, restaurants, hotels, monuments, everything. They're in most countries internationally now. So especially when planning for my trip to Japan and Hong Kong, Yelp was a great resource. I mean, I like TripAdvisor, but I'm a Yelp girl just because, I don't know, the people there are a little more, they're a little more sophisticated in the reviews. The photos I find are better, and the app's just easier for me to navigate personally. But I'm a big advocate of finding what works for you. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all app. I think to add to that, Instagram's a great tool, especially now that they've introduced separate search feeds for places, hashtags, people, and I think there's a fourth one. I'm blanking on it right now, but it's a great resource if you're, say, I don't know, I have a friend who's currently in Bali right now, and she's using Instagram to find all those iconic Bali, like swings over the jungle, or hotels that give you like the rose petal bath, all those like iconic like travel goal photos she wants to go take on her solo trip, and she's using Instagram to find them.
Wow, that is amazing. I think Instagram's taken over because now Instagram, obviously being purchased by Facebook, Facebook's already huge. Instagram's taken over because people are like naturally visual, and when you travel, like you travel to go see things. You want to see new things, right? You want to experience new life, and that's what Instagram's about. And now they're adding the live feature, right? So you can go live. And well, I was just talking about this yesterday, but there's a woman who, no joke, she's called the Queen of Succulents. Like the little plants, succulents. And she streams, she gets 2,000 people watching her at the same exact time, just walking around her house and her different little greenhouse, all of the different succulents she has.
I love it.
I'm like, if she could do that, anyone could do anything.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great opportunity. And as a travel hacker or a travel expert like us, I get so many opportunities to come and share cool things about different places we've been, and that's where we're moving now. So, of everywhere you've been, like, what is the coolest thing that you've done? Like, what is the coolest experience? Like, describe it. Why is it your craziest or coolest experience?
There's so many to choose from. It's really hard to pick one. I would say, as a travel influencer, you kind of get some cool opportunities along the way, whether it's tourism bureaus, restaurants, hotels, different brands that want to collaborate on trips. I'd say most recently I went to Hong Kong. I stayed at the most amazing hotel, Hotel Icon. I give it like 4 thumbs up. If I had 4 thumbs, I would put them all up. It was an amazing luxury hotel with a green kind of philosophy. They had a fleet of Teslas to take their guests around. They had
a fleet of Teslas?
Yeah. Pinch me, right? Wow. We don't even have that here, and Tesla's from here. Wow. They had, all electric shuttle service taking you around the city. Organic local foods in the restaurants, a spa, and I think from my social media presence and me tagging the hotel, they learned that I was in the hotel, and they kind of introduced us to some pretty cool experiences at the hotel that I wouldn't have otherwise found out about. And there wasn't that much information on it on Yelp or TripAdvisor, so I found that that was an opportunity for me to help amplify the hotel's message just by way of trying some new things that they had to offer to guests in the hotel that maybe need a little more exposure and publicity. So I feel like I was helping them out and helping my followers out. They want to go to Hong Kong. That's a really cool hotel to experience.
I'm gonna have to go to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Cool. So, for me personally, I travel a lot to the Philippines, and actually I have a team there, 50-ish, I'd say. So I've got 2 offices, but the thing that I've learned the most is actually the culture. I think the culture is so important. I think that being able to experience how other people live, well, first off, it gives you a huge appreciation as an American, like, wow, we're pretty spoiled here when you travel and you see, like, when someone's making $2 a day compared to complaining about a $15 an hour minimum wage. It's crazy to think. But, for me, I think that it just makes me grow more, and I feel like more in touch with myself. I feel like every time I go, obviously, I'm there to learn. That's how I approach it. Like, I'm there to learn. I want to learn and learn. And I feel like, wow, when I come back here, there's so much more I have to give because I've learned so much.
Right. And there's so many, like, corny travel quotes, but like they really speak to me. After you travel, it really opens your eyes. It's humbling, and just learning how people live is such an enriching experience.
So if there was one thing that people had to know, how about this? I bet a lot of people want to know how to do this. Like, how in the world did you get started as a travel hacker or a travel expert?
Yeah, so I've, grown up. I didn't travel a whole ton internationally, but I did a lot of traveling in the States with my family growing up. And kind of once I became independent on my own out of college, I kind of just took a break, and I was, doing the 9 to 5, hustling, rat race, and it got to a point where I'm like, I need to travel more and stop spending money on all these, things to keep up with, whoever in my circle or my peers, and I just wanted to explore more and see what life was like outside Silicon Valley, because we're definitely in a bubble here. Yeah. No matter how you put it, it might be a fun bubble, but it's exhausting after a while. So I really started to prioritize travel and saving up for that, and whether that was solo by myself with my sister, my boyfriend, or just like friends from school, really making that a priority. And it kind of became addictive after that. And especially, I've been a blogger for the past 7 years, always having that as like my side hustle, using that as a platform to share these experiences and inspire people that maybe were in the same circumstance that I was, working really hard and not really taking these breaks to kind of, surround myself by new people, new experiences and cultures. But just really getting outside and, going to different places around the world there's nothing that can compare to that.
Man, it's all about the experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So Jeff, since you've been doing this a while, what are some misconceptions that people have about traveling and working remote?
Working remote and traveling. There's kind of a thing that's been growing in popularity called nomadic work, right? Where you can be a nomad, you can pretty much work from anywhere. And for me personally, I live a laptop kind of a lifestyle where I can work anywhere as long as I have a laptop. Matter of fact, my phone, I could probably run 90% or maybe more of my business through my phone. There's an app for everything, right? Like my whole business through email, Facebook, Messenger. I get a lot of my business through Facebook now. Like, matter of fact, I've found that I'm like, hey, I don't even want to email people. I just hit me up on Facebook.
It's easier.
It is. It's easier, and then I can see notifications kind of pile up, and I can shove them to the side. Then when I come back, they're still black. They're still there, ready to go, right? And then plus, I can just hold down the record button, and I can just speak out, right? Well, when it comes to working remote, as long as you have good internet, like you said, those pocket Wi-Fis or MiFis or whatever they are, even internationally, sometimes you can't bring yours over there, but you can always buy a wireless Wi-Fi there, right? Wherever you are. I know in the Philippines you can get like a week of data for like $10 or something like that. You can just pay for a week at a time, and you can work remote. And as long as you're setting up the tools, right? That's the problem, is a lot of times people don't set up the tools. Like there's too many things in their business still that like they have to push a piece of paper, or they have to connect with so-and-so. And if you're building your business truly to scale virtually, then you're making sure that like your email is all shared with your team. You've got a shared calendar. You're not just like pinning stuff up on a board. If you've got your system set up virtually, then you can work, not to sound corny, but virtually anywhere.
Yeah. I'm definitely a fan of over-communicating, especially when abroad, to make sure that there's no room for error, and you bring up a lot of great points. I have another question about how do you deal with friends and family interpreting what you do for a living in sometimes a negative way, negative connotation. They think it's all fun and games.
I guess you have to explain to them that, hey, we live in a virtual world, and explaining to somebody what an influencer is actually very difficult. Because you're saying,
Story
okay,
of my life.
yeah, because you're like, okay, look, I've built an online reputation of doing cool things, and I build content. And like you said, you classified yourself earlier as a content creator. Okay, I'm not saying it, you said it. And that's what it is. People are absorbing your content, they're eating your content. So what you can say is that, you know what I provide is a lot of value, like you said about the Hong Kong hotel. It's Hong Kong, right? The Hong Kong hotel, where they realized you were putting out information about their hotel, and they were really excited about the press that you gave them, and they said, wow, this is really valuable, and thus gave you things that were of value to them because they knew that they were going to see a return.
Right.
I was just in Vegas last week. I got free buffets. I got comped everywhere. I got free upgrades in the hotel. Why? Because I go to them and I say, look, I'm a travel expert and I'm going to be working on some awesome stuff and I'd love to talk about your hotel. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? What are some things that people need to know, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to tell you about the shabby room. They're going to show you what a nice room looks
Yeah.
like so that people can see that, right? So you're giving value, and that's the key word in all of it is what is the value that you and me as travel experts provide to the people that we work with or could potentially work with.
Yeah, and the people that consume the content, because you don't want to waste their time,
Exactly.
or they're not going to trust you.
Exactly, and the people that are following you, they follow you because you're giving them good stuff. You're giving them good tips, you're giving them hacks and things that they can truly use to enjoy a great life and to have an easier experience traveling. P.S. And they're going to find out, hey, is it worth going to this place? You're going to tell them, yeah, this is awesome, or this wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get a lot of value in where not to go, just as much as where to go.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about like free stuff and perks. With that, there's definitely a lot of people who want to break out into the industry, or maybe people who have been thinking about it for many years, like I did, kind of having it as a side hustle. What tips would you give to somebody kind of wanting to make the jump and leaving their corporate or structured work environment to pursue a life where they're providing value and kind of doing what they want to do?
Plan. Now, I'm a 10-year project manager. I've been in IT and project management for the past 10 years. And, I've actually talked people out of making the jump too. And I tell people this all the time. There is nothing wrong with having a 9-to-5. There's nothing wrong with having a job. As a matter of fact, when your side hustle's ready and it's mature, that's when you take the leap. Now, sometimes you take the leap because maybe you're not feeling valued at your work. If that's the case, then maybe they make the jump for you. For me personally, I had worked my entire life in public sector, and then I went to private sector, and I was climbing up the corporate ladder. And it got to the point to where I had really achieved the most value that they thought that I was. And to me, that hurt because I said, well, I've always been growing in my whole life. I've always had really growth in every position I had. And I got to the point in my job after about 4 or 5 years that they said, well, you're at where you're at, And that's usually when I say, okay, it's time to move on. And I actually didn't leave my day job. And I had a 6-figure day job. It was a nice job, the best and last job I ever have. But for me, it was about value. And my side hustle, building virtual teams for people and helping show people how to do outsourcing and things like that. For me, that was such a huge passion, and I only spent a few hours a day doing it. And I started to make okay money doing it. And I said, well, if they're not valuing me at my job, and I'm only putting 2 to 3 hours a day after work, and I'm doing okay, well, what would it be like if I spent a full 8 hours a day doing that job? And sometimes you just have to take the leap. Now, here's my advice. This is my hopefully good advice that you guys take, is that make sure that you have money saved up. Make sure you have a plan. Hey, if you don't have the money saved up, you better be okay with living with mom for a while.
Yeah.
Because you gotta survive. That's number one. You gotta have food on the table. You gotta have a place to go. But I can tell you this: most American households that I know, there's always a plan B. And our parents, our family, our relatives, there's somebody that sees the value in you and is willing to invest their time in helping you grow. And that's sometimes what it takes. For me, when I left, I was so worried. And here I am leaving a 6-figure day job. It's crazy to think that in May of last year, I literally was at my grandpa's house. And now, this year, I'm making double what I made at my 6-figure job in the first year. So now it's like, why? But you know what? Sometimes I'm like, why didn't I leave sooner? I'm like, well, because I had to learn this lesson, right? Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, it's always going to be somewhat of a leap of faith, but you bring up a really good point, which is like, be financially smart about it.
You have to
don't
be
go into debt.
smart.
Don't do anything that's irreversible. Make sure you have a roof over your head.
You want to jump into the McDonald's playpen, not the cliff.
Right.
Right? Making the jump is not good if the jump is off the cliff. Jumping into the ball pen to play around and figure things out, that's acceptable because you can always climb out of that, right? And look, I've helped people personally grow their businesses, and I'm like, hey man, you know what? Especially here in San Francisco, startup culture, sometimes they don't work. Like literally, coming up with a startup in San Francisco, that's literally just like putting trash in the garbage because there's so many of them here. And there are very few that actually work.
Lots live and die.
Oh, there are
Every
many
day.
that come and go. And you have to understand that failure is normal.
Yeah.
Failure is something that we all experience, and it makes us grow from it. And if we're not learning from the failure, that's when the problem starts, right? So I've had many failures. I've had many successes, and it's all about getting back up, learning from it, moving on, adapting, and moving it to that next fresh idea.
Right. You have a really inspiring story, so that's encouraging.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Let's do some bomb drops at the end. So some value bombs. So if there's one thing that you've learned along the way that could help someone become a travel expert or a travel blogger, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to push the envelope and try new things. Don't go into it wanting to fit a mold. I think is the best way to approach it.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So you guys, this is Chelsea Pearl. You can go to chelseapearl.com, and she has all her information online for you to check it out. I highly recommend you look at this girl's Instagram, and her Twitter's good too, but her Instagram, if you're an endless scroller like me and you like to look at a bunch of pictures, this is where it's at right here.
Well, thank you. I have a really colorful feed right now, so I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. You guys all know Jeff. Follow him on 9010life.com, Jeff J. Hunter. Thank you so much today. I have been loving catching up on all your content. We've only just met recently, but I'm loving all the information and fun to watch videos that you have on your Facebook page especially, and I can't wait to see more video content coming from you in the years to come.
Well, thanks for being so encouraging and inspirational and giving me great ideas to travel around and go see.
Yeah, definitely get over to Hong Kong.
Kong
You're gonna love it.
I want to drive around that Tesla.
Yeah.
All right, bye. See you guys.
Bye.